everybody, and welcome to another episode of Intuitive Insights. Today, my guest is Shaman, Desiree Alpert, connecting with us from New Brunswick, Canada. Hi, Desiree. How are you today?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me about shamanism. Tell me, how did this start for you? How does that happen?
Oh, okay. So, well, for me, my personal journey in this is that I was actually born into this.
Okay.
And I didn't, for many, many years, I didn't have a teacher because it was something that was not talked about, like ever, because it was dangerous to talk about these things. Right. So it not depending on what part of the world, it's kind of like the Salem witch trials. They would come after you, they would persecute you, and they would persecute your family. So that necessarily did not happen in Canada, but in other parts of the world, this is where this was happening. And so, but by the time, this is where shamanism, I should kind of back that up a little bit. Shamanism is very ancient. And it's traced back, anthropologists have traced it back literally somewhere between 60 and 80,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is what is seen on, and they documented it on every single continent on this planet. So this is in all indigenous peoples, it's in humanity, it's woven in throughout humanity. It's not just a section of a certain part of the world, and but there's a lot of information and knowledge that's been shrouded and hidden because it had to be kept secret, right? Mm-hmm. And so I ended up being very heavily spirit taught, and I remember going to kindergarten thinking everybody could talk to the animals and to the trees and whatever, and it was just like I learned very quickly that and not to say anything, right? so anyway, so it's been a battle. For the first long while, it was a battle of acceptance and when do I say something, when do I not say something. Like, we're in a time now where it's much easier to speak about these things openly, and now I absolutely do. But there was a time when my clients came to me through covert ways. Like, I didn't have a shingle hung out on the door, saying, "Hey, here I am." It was like everything was all word of mouth.
Kind of synchronicity is what brought you and clients together.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm also an intuitive, and it was quite shocking to me the day I discovered that I could hear dogs. I definitely get a vibe from trees, but I can't hear the trees. So what does a tree have to say?
They actually have the most hilarious sense of humor.
Oh my goodness, do they now?
Yeah. So if, when you start connecting with the trees, you better be able to laugh at yourself, because that's what they're all about. They're all about, they're not poking fun at anybody. They are just very jovial, and so they're excited and they like to banter and have fun and those kinds of things. But they can be serious too. So there's always a balance there, right? Yeah.
I had a dream that I'm going to share with you because I know that you'll understand. As my awakening was beginning, new dreams and new thought patterns were coming. And I woke up one morning and I was like, oh my God, I dreamed a flower was talking to me, this beautiful little red poppy. And we were just, I don't know what the conversation was, but I just felt it was awesome. Like, I can't believe that you're speaking to me. And I know it's a call from Mother Earth to come out and commune, so yeah. It's wonderful that you can do that. So how would you explain that to somebody and give them confidence, because they just realized, or that connection has just opened for them? What advice would you give somebody who goes, oh my God, I just heard a tree?
Well, I can guarantee you the very first thing they're going to think is, okay, my imagination is running wild with me, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to convince yourself, your rational mind is going to take over and convince you that you didn't hear that. You just made that up because you wanted to hear that.
Wow.
Right. And so, but that's the thing. It's our imagination is actually the doorway into the other side.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been taught for generations and generations that that's wrong, that our imagination is a figment of our mind, is not real, is just trickery. And that comes back to way back when, maybe not that far, but it originated way back when there were other people that wanted to keep power over top of other people, right? So I don't want to call out anything specific, but there was always, even right from landowners, do you know what I mean? Like, and different, like the different parts where only certain people were allowed to read, right? And everyone else couldn't. And so that was all about power, keeping power over somebody. And so when there was more organized, I don't want to say religion, because religion is very valid, right?
To me, it's like, because that's how they influence. For the viewers who are tuning in and don't really understand your imagination. Your imagination is a tool. It is a gateway to higher frequencies, higher consciousness, mystical experiences, in communion with your higher self, to get that clarity and knowledge that to make it easier to navigate through life. So with the advent of plays, and in these past centuries, the advent of movie theaters and advertisements, they've taken what was in the imagination, the moving pictures, and they've given you moving pictures to shut that part of the imagination down. Is that about right? Is that how you would categorize that?
Yeah, like in the modern sense, absolutely true. And it was a power move.
Yes.
Is what that basically comes down to, right? And so it's the same thing. Like when we first start school, it's like, oh, you're coloring a picture. Well, no, the sky is not purple, it's blue, so therefore what you've colored is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's very simplistic, but this is where the conditioning begins, right from the time that we're expressing our imagination.
Yes.
And so therefore it makes it very difficult for some people. Some people are easier than, and it comes back down to your personality type, right? And who you are. Some people find it a little bit easier to connect in with their imagination, and other people have a really hard time letting go of that. And that actually, when they have a hard time of letting go and just kind of connecting in, if we look at the root cause of that, it's fear.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Yeah. So it's
fear too in sessions. Most of the time people can get into that deep trance state, but every now and again you'll come across somebody who's just afraid of the information, afraid of giving up their own, what they feel is control. But if you knew how truly subtle it was, and that it's always flowing through you anyway, you're just taking a moment to focus it and concentrate on it. It shouldn't be frightening.
Right. Exactly. So if people can, and it's the same thing when people are learning how to quiet the mind, like when they want to embark on any kind of meditation, right? And people are like, oh, I can't meditate. It's just, and what it is we have to learn, because our brain has been conditioned over however many years, to be on the go all the time, and to have the laundry list of things that you have to do, and to be proactive and to be multitasking. And we're in an instantaneous world where we can't even sit through a 30-second video on Facebook without fast forwarding to get to the punchline or to get to the end. Do you know what I mean? And so this is where we're conditioning our mind. So this is part of that, learning how to slow all of that down again. because it's out of balance.
It
And
is.
so that also comes into play. And so when you're trying to really focus in, so that way you can hear what nature is saying to you.
Yes,
Right?
and please tune in because it's quite interesting. Out of nowhere, your dog starts talking to you. The little lips don't move, and it's the dog. I was cleaning up after her. I mean, I've had her now for a decade, but when she was a puppy, I had never heard animals. Nothing like that had ever happened to me. But as I started bonding with her, I was cleaning up a spot. She urinated on the rug, and I heard her. I just marked that. Like she's scolding me for cleaning it up because she just marked it, you know? So they don't, she's not having all out conversations, but when she's truly passionate about something, I can hear it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So it's the same thing when you are speaking with people that have crossed over and they're in spirit or whatever. It's when that passion, which is the emotion, right? Mm-hmm. Because the emotion is the driver of the energy. So when it's strong enough and it comes through in this in a message that you can hear. So some people are like, oh, but I didn't actually hear it. Somehow I just know it. And then they rationalize and talk themselves out of it.
Yes.
Right? And so, and it takes time to learn to stop talking yourself out of it. And it takes time to start to trust yourself, right? Yes. And your truth cord, your discernment. So.
Yeah, but I'm thankful that I followed occult knowledge, which if anybody's listening, occult just means secret. It's nothing dark. It's nothing sinister. Shamans, intuitives, psychics, empaths, in all lines of healers, we are just simply sensitive to the energies that are around us and other people. And when you are in need of a shaman, how would you, if someone needs you, what's your modality for interpreting the information? I come to you, I found you, I need help.
Right. Okay. So, I wouldn't, I am intuitive, but I'm not a psychic medium. So it wouldn't be like where a lot of people are like, oh, I can just come to you for some answers. And I'm like, well, yes, but it looks a little bit different than what you may be used to. Mm-hmm. Because I don't connect in on the same vibrational frequency that a medium would, for example. And so I can divinate certain answers if you have some questions. I can teach you how to do that. And but more so if you're looking for healing in the energetic body. So this is where I really come in and step in. And so what I'm doing then is I'm going in and working with the energetic soul body and whatever energy deposits that may have been left behind just from life happening. Right. And now, so people that have never worked with energy or have had any kind of energy treatment, whether it's like a Reiki session, for example. Right. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that starts to release and starts to move blockages. But what I'm doing, I'm going in a lot deeper. Okay. And I'm getting in really deep. And now we're really starting to move things, and to realign the energetic body because we're so out of balance because we've spent years ignoring it and not doing anything with it, right? So pardon?
Shut off from it.
Yes, absolutely. So a big proponent would be soul loss. And so what soul loss is, it doesn't mean you've lost your entire soul. It means that you've lost a piece of it, a fragment. Mm-hmm. And so we lose fragments throughout our life. And it could start from the time that we're still in utero, where our mother still, we haven't been born yet. Because we are so intimately connected with our mothers at that time, whatever she's going through, if she's going through a difficult time or something traumatic, and it has the chance to impact the fetus enough that you could have your first soul loss before you're even born. And there's other circumstances where you can bring it in from a past life too, but that gets like really big. So I'm just going to keep it to this life to keep it simple.
Do you attribute that energy loss to do you attribute the soul loss as a loss of energy, like a battery would lose energy, lose
Yeah.
charge?
Yes, absolutely. And so what happens is every traumatic thing that happens in our life, another little piece will go, and another piece will go, and another piece will go. Mm-hmm. So you're going to end up as an adult that says, listen, I have no energy, but I've started eating really great. I'm meditating. I'm doing all these wonderful things. And they're listing A, B to Z. And then, but they're like, how come I still feel like something's missing? How come I still feel drained? How come I can't seem to fill my cup? Mm-hmm. Well, what they're doing is they're putting all this great, wonderful, beautiful energy into their body that's been punched full of holes. Mm-hmm. So it's seeping right back out again. Mm-hmm. Right? So we need to retrieve these parts to make us whole again, to patch us back together again. But here's the other thing. While we've been busy losing all these parts, because the more it kind of snowballs. So once you lose one, it's easier to lose the next one, which then makes you a little bit energetically weaker. So it's easier to lose the next one, and then easier to lose the next one. So you see how it kind of snowballs, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we know that energy is always around us. It's always passing through, moving around. And so it doesn't mean that it's a bad energy or something that's looking to feed on you. There is energy like that, but not always, right? So while you have a hole punched in your energetic body, energy comes by and now it gets stuck in that hole. So this is kind of like, when you wake up with that sore neck, like as if you caught a draft, but your window wasn't open during the night. And so you don't know why you kind of woke up and you have an energetic intrusion. Or you might be being dogged with illnesses and doctors are saying you're healthy, you're fine, there's nothing wrong. Well, chances are it's energetic intrusions. So which I call energetic deposits, right?
How do you deal with that?
Well, you can, there's a big list of all these different things that you could be feeling. You could be feeling like you're just ill. You could be in a depression. You could have anxiety. It could show up as a number of different things. So it's really, it's right now, because we are at pandemic levels of soul loss, because people haven't been doing soul retrieval the way that they used to. Yeah. When majority of the world lived in tribes and villages, if you were a little kid and you climbed a tree and you fell out of a tree and you broke your arm, your parents would set your arm, reset the broken bone, and then they would take you to the shaman to make sure that your soul part was returned to you right away from that shock, right? Or maybe you've lost that piece. And that piece, the reason you're losing that piece, the piece is going home to spirit world because it's had that traumatic experience, right? So it's kind of like, when people talk about being in a car accident and they can see themselves being worked on in the OR as they're being, operated on and being revived and all those things. So that's a piece of them that has gone. And so your soul part, because it's gone home, just like a little kid who wants to go see mom when they get hurt, right? Doesn't necessarily want to cut it. If it's too traumatic to come back into the physical body, it may refuse to come back. It might get lost over there, or it may, it is possible to actually hijack and steal parts of people's soul fragments.
Yes, like vampirism and all those stories.
Yes.
But how can we reintegrate that? How can we explain that to people?
Right. So that's where you need to have a shaman come in. So now the shaman would travel to the other side, to the spirit world, and we track that soul piece. And then it's not, we don't force that soul piece to come back. Sometimes it's a negotiation. Because let's say you were a 9-year-old child when you lost your soul piece, because you were in a really bad family situation. Your parents fought all the time, and maybe the house burned down. Okay, and or it doesn't even have to be the house. It could even just be enough that your parents are fighting all the time, right? And so now you go find that 9-year-old soul piece, and you're like, okay, you're and you explain to them, you're an adult now, you're grown up, you are in a safe place now. Would you like to come back and reintegrate with yourself? And sometimes they'll be ready to come back, and sometimes they're like, no, I don't want to come back. Stuff is still too crazy. It's not safe for me to come back. And so you have this conversation with this fragment, and so there's no point in forcing it to come back, because it's just going to leave.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And no, because it's not ready yet. So this is why when I work, I go in, and I don't go in chronological order. I go in my guides, because I work with a team. So I have a spirit team that I work with. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a spirit team, whether they're actively working with them or not, and know who they are or not. But they have helpers. They have helping spirits. And so myself and my team will go and connect with the person that I'm working on with their team, and we'll be like, okay, show us what needs to come back, and in what order, and who's ready to come back, and we'll go and have those discussions, those negotiations. We'll bring them back. And so sometimes, like we can find them, for an example, they could be out in a field full of flowers, just waiting and happy. And other times they're in this dark, barren land, and we've got to undercloak, and we've got to bring them back, because that's part of that piece's journey to do that.
Yeah.
And so we'll bring that back to this person, and we'll bring it back into them. And then there's integration work that has to happen. So we try to make it as gentle as possible, but at the same time encourage it. So if you were, let's say it was a 13-year-old piece, and and part of that integration is to watch those crazy old movies that you used to love watching, eating ice cream, let's say, right? So, or whatever that may be.
Part when you were that age.
Yeah. So you may want, or you may find yourself going down to the dollar store to buy coloring books and crayons, because that's what you loved doing when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, I'm a 40-something-year-old woman. I can't be coloring in a coloring book with crayons. And I'm like, well, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, definitely.
Right? And
go ahead.
Yeah. So that's integrating. And then so at the same time, it's going to sound weird, but you need to talk to that soul piece. So you're speaking to yourself. Now, if you know how to shamanically journey, which anyone can learn. So if you know how, it's easier. But if you don't know how, it's okay. There's still all different kinds of ways. You can do it in dream time if you are an active dreamer, and you just set the intention before you go to sleep that you want to connect with this soul piece that's come back. Or you can just think about it. You can journal about it. Write to this soul piece in your journal. Mm-hmm. Because your soul piece is returned to you, right? So it's now living life with you. And what you want to be doing to integrate this piece back, because maybe it's been 20 years. A lot of things happen in 20 years, right?
Definitely.
So you need to catch them up like a good old friend, and really speak to yourself and catch yourself up with all the big milestones and what's happened and how you've shifted and shaped yourself and all of those things. And so maybe the gift of that soul piece is worthiness that comes back to you. Maybe it's self-power, right? Stand up for yourself. Or maybe it's just hopefulness if you've been struggling with depression. Mm-hmm. Because the depression is because there's parts of you that's missing. So do you know what I mean? Like it could be a number of different things. And so, but we need to, the thing that goes hand in hand, in my opinion, is you can do soul retrieval without removing the energy deposits but that's kind of like trying to mop a dirty floor without sweeping it first.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, okay, we need to clean out all of the energy deposits first as best as we can. Maybe we don't get all of them, but it's cleaner, right? So therefore it makes that integration for that soul part coming back in easier. And it makes the transition easier, which makes it easier for the person who also has to integrate afterwards, because we all have a part in our own healing. So, you know, they can't, I'm not like the magic blue pill of you just come show up and poof, I'll fix you. It doesn't work that way.
None of us are. Yeah, you have to participate in your journey. And
Yeah.
I want to explain to others in a very simplistic manner about the energies and blockages. From the time we're born, with every no, with every disappointment, the belief system that you have around that event is deposited on you. It becomes part of you. It's like a badge. And if you were really hurt by something, a parent, or you were bullied at school, you have all these things during different years of your life, you know, it builds up. And before you know it, you realize you're carrying around this weight of energy. And what has to be done to clear it is to understand that it is just energy, and that you have to be willing to go in and explore those aches and pains and hurts and beliefs in order to heal them. A shaman, psychic, anybody that you choose can only take you so far. You have to be willing to participate in your own healing. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and the thing is there's going to be times where you simply, you know, we're our own best healer, but there's times where we cannot do our own healing. It's kind of like a surgeon saying, oh, I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon. I can do open heart surgery. But if I'm having a problem with my heart, I can't operate on myself, right?
Yes.
So, right. It's okay. That's like an extreme example, but this is the example of why we cannot always work on ourselves, why we cannot always work on our family members, or whether they're blood family members or they're in our, like, you know, your friends are better than your family members.
Your
you
tribe.
know, exactly, your tribe, because sometimes we're in the same soul pod.
Yes.
So therefore we cannot work on each other in certain circumstances.
Yes.
Right.
They're just like what I do. I believe deeply in QHHT because I just like the modality, but I can't do that on myself. I can't ask myself questions that way, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, so.
Are you teaching how to do these journeys?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I even have one online. It's an online course. And so you can just purchase it, and it's a self-study. So you would just go through it at your own pace, and it's completely yours. And now there is drumming. Okay. So the way it helps, so I'll kind of quickly describe the state that we drop into. Shamanic journeying drops you into a shamanic state, like a theta state.
Yes.
So right now, so for readers that aren't, or readers, sorry, for viewers that aren't familiar with that, right now we're in beta state. Our mind is in beta state, and then it goes down into alpha state, and then there's theta state, which is the same as REM state.
Yes, same I work it as well.
Yeah. So when we can slow the mind, it's the electrical current that we're actually slowing down. So we're slowing everything down so we can be into that frequency, and that's where we can access a lot of the information, right? So when we can get there. Now, I do that through drumming. You could also do it through rattling, and you can do it through different kind of music with drumming as well. Or if you've highly trained your brain, you can actually get there in silence as well. But the easiest way is with the drum. And so this has also been scientifically proven, where the drum is the only instrument on earth that they've tested so far, and they've tested all kinds, like it's documented. So the scientists have done this. And it's the only instrument that actually activates every single part of the brain simultaneously. There is no other instrument that does this. Like different parts of the brain, yeah, sure, and maybe multiple parts, but not the entire brain. The drum is the only thing that does that.
So there's no accident that our ancestors and all the native tribes and cultures, that's one thing I wanted to tell people as well. With all this news about immigration, every person on the planet is a frequency. And for as many, we were all needed. The frequency is here for a reason, and we express that in different ways. So when you are acting upon your joy, you are expressing your best frequency, your highest frequency. And it doesn't matter what modality you choose, because if you listen to these interviews, it's about our personal way of accessing it to help people, but it's all in the same state. We all are getting you into that theta state where the information is. So when you begin to meditate and quiet your mind, it's how you hear the information that's in the Akash record. You can't access that when your mind is going Louboutins and Kardashians and new cars. You can't access it when you have these things that are just rolling around in your head. So that's why we talk so much about meditation. It is the first way to begin to truly help yourself on this journey of healing and reintegration.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, think about when you're driving on the highway, and okay, so I'm going to try to convert into miles, like 70 miles an hour, right? So you're driving on the highway, you're doing 70 miles an hour, and when you look out the window, the trees and the grass is like a blur, right? Yeah. So then when you come into town, and now you're driving 40 miles, I think, something like that, maybe?
It's about right.
Okay, so you're driving about 40 miles, but if you've been on the highway for a good hour, that 40 miles is like, oh my God, we're crawling, this is so slow. But if you weren't in the car and you were just standing on the sidewalk, that 40 miles would look pretty fast.
Yeah.
Right? And so now we need to slow down into a walk on the sidewalk so that we can actually count, instead of seeing it as a blur, and then when we slow down and we think we're going really slow and we can actually see things, but we still can't count the petals on the flowers. So when we walk, we can count the petals on the flowers. We can actually stop and smell the roses. But do you know what I mean? So this is what we're doing with our minds. Like our minds in regular mode, they're on the highway. Yeah. And we need to bring it down to a walk so that way we can actually see what we have in front of us and interact with it, right? Wow. So and that's exactly what you're talking about with all this. And the meditation is the car. It is helping us to get there. It is helping us to slow down and speed up and whatever the right balance is for the moment that we're in, right? Because you can't walk around in theta state all day long. I mean, it's nothing.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
You're sleepwalking. That's somnambulistic, sleepwalking state of mind. So it would be really weird if you were doing that.
Yeah. There wouldn't be a whole lot of communication going on in your regular world, right?
So if somebody wants to come and see you for healing and reintegration, how could they find you?
Well, if they go to my website, which is soulshealingpath.com, there's all kinds of information there. But if they click on the contact, and then my email information is there, or you can go right into my scheduler. I have a scheduler there as well. Just click into the scheduler and you can book something instantly.
And about how long is the average appointment for you?
Usually, well, it depends on what it is that people are looking for. If some appointments I do the work before we actually because I Zoom call with people.
Okay.
So with clients. So the work can be done prior to us actually Zoom calling and speaking about it, or it can be done as we're talking. So anywhere from a half an hour to 2 hours, depending on what it is that they're looking for and what it is that we're doing, and in what way that we're doing things in.
Okay, and we can find a list of services on your website.
Yes.
You do distance and in person,
Yes.
and you have a course available on your website.
Yes, to learn how to journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I also have another course that's coming up in October 18th, and it's called Firewall Your Energy Body. So this is for not for beginners. This is for people that have already know whatever energy modality that you're doing. It's not an advanced, but it's a little bit more of an intermediate where you need to know what a chakra is. You need to know how to quiet the mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's not like anything crazy, but you need to have some of the basics covered, right? And so, and this course is really, we're going in this, it's an 8-week course, and you are going to be a different person.
Is it all, it's all recorded, pre-recorded video?
It's all, it's all live. So it's actually a pretty demanding course where it's going to be 2, depending on the size of the group. I won't have more than 12 people in the course because it's a live interaction with me. Okay. So it's once a week for 8 weeks, and we're live for 2 hours every Thursday.
And how much are you charging for the course?
$6,200. Okay. But if you contact me and you tell me that you saw it on here, I'm going to give everybody a $400 savings.
We love discounts! Yay! So you guys better sign up so you can get that discount, and then that gives them a certification. How does that translate for them?
Well, what that's gonna look like at the end is, because we're gonna go in and they're going to learn so many different techniques, and they're going to learn different energetic protection. They're going to learn energetic hygiene, and they're going to learn how to bring themselves into true balance, and how to unleash their, even though a lot of people are working on authenticity and standing in their power, but we're always coming up against these blockages. So this course is about, how do we annihilate that? How do we move that stuff out so the new energy, the fresh energy can come right on in, and we can start working with that. And so this is like a really hands-on. So if you can, I would really suggest that people show up, like, to commit. And I understand 2 hours a week is a lot of a commitment for someone to sit in front of their computer as we're talking and as we're interacting. But at the end of the 8 weeks, it is so life transforming. It is absolutely worth it.
So is it more personal for them, or has it become a certification course?
Well, okay.
Like energy practitioners when they're done?
Well, a lot of these people are already coming in as energy practitioners, and I don't really, I'm humming and hawing because it is a type of certification, but I don't give out certifications because I'm like, it's a piece of paper. Yeah. And I know a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on that, right? Yeah. And especially when people are out running around trying to get all different kinds of certifications from everywhere. And I'm like, to me, this is not, you have to practice. You have to, it's not about how many things you have on, okay, I have doors on my wall, but that's because they're portals to get to different worlds. But, you know.
Wait a minute. You cannot just walk by that, because I've been having a lot of door and key symbology. So you guys heard what she said. There's doors behind her because they're portals. Now, when I started Perspective Metaphysics, I will be the first one to tell you it was not all me. I incorporated everything that my guide suggested. I bonded with him. I completely understand him from an energetic perspective. And he has guided me to give out the keys. So when I post, I've given out a key. That means someone has had a session, reached their mystical state, their theta state, and I've had a conversation with their higher self that I've recorded for them onto a flash drive in the shape of a key.
Nice.
Yes.
Very cool.
So in session, one lady tells me, she says, I always ask at the end, do you have anything to say for humanity? Any last words? And do you have any messages for me? And she says, yes, I have a message for you. I see that you'll be opening a lot of doors and there's lots of light. And then she came out and I was preparing her key and she goes, well, now that makes a lot more sense now that I see the key. That is amazing. You got to tell me something about these portals. Tell me.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So these doors, I was traveling, actually they're all in Europe. I was traveling in Europe 8-9 years ago, and I had this need to take pictures of doors and windows, like doorways and windows. And I thought, oh, but they weren't telling me why. They're just like, you just got to do it.
I know.
And I'm like,
don't you just love that blind faith?
I know, right? And I was just like, and I kept trying to figure out why, and they're like, nope. And then so when we get back home, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? And I think it was like, I don't know, I had to sit on them and I had to pick them out. There was only certain ones, which are these ones back here. And then it was like, then I was guided to put them into frames. And then before I know it, they're up on the wall. And I'm like, and I'm looking, and then I was shown that they were actual doorways into different worlds.
Wow.
So yeah, so we can journey into different worlds.
Yes.
And there's different gifts waiting for us to discover.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to teach me about what you do. I've had a wonderful time, and I hope Canada cools off for you real soon.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hot.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.